All right, you guys, what an awesome interview with Sam. We're going to kind of dive into what took place over the weekend because there's just so much to unpack. So let's start off with Nuttycombe, and I think we need to highlight, the race that really had all the eyeballs on it. And it featured Parker Valby versus Katelyn Tuohy. Pretty much, we've seen it last year at NCAAs, these two young talented ladies going after it. This time it had a different outcome. But Ashley, from your perspective, how did you see this race unfolding, and are we surprised by how Parker Valby of Florida just attacked this course?
Yeah, so let's break this down here. Obviously, this, Parker Valby and Katelyn Tuohy making their season debuts here at Nuttycombe. So much hype around this, you know, because they've been, the two top ladies for quite some time, dueling in and out. We remember what happened last year at NCAAs in Stillwater.
Yeah.
So we come to Nuttycombe, right? And, you're curious how's it going to unfold? Parker used the same approach that she took last year at NCAAs in Stillwater, but this time, Olivia, it worked. It worked on the day. She, like we saw last year at NCAAs, Valby's one who's going to take it out hard and put pressure on the rest of the field to say, hey, if you want to beat me, you're going to have to come catch me. And, if you look at what happened in this race, about 2 or so miles in, I believe right before the 4K mark, Valby started dropping Tuohy. Tuohy really tried to go with her when Valby went, really hard early on, but she just, in the rain and the wind, it was Valby that held on strong, and then she would go on to clock a Nuttycombe course record there, which, especially in that kind of weather, was pretty crazy. So I think it was very interesting to watch all that unfold. What are your thoughts?
Are we surprised by it, though? Parker literally, I felt ran the same race strategy that she did in Stillwater. Does it come to a surprise that the outcome may have been different? Are you surprised, I guess?
Not necessarily, because, even though Valby got second in that race at NCAA, she still ran a phenomenal race. Tuohy just had, this whole other gear, she had that grit, I'm going to catch her and no one's going to deny me. That's, I don't think that necessarily her winning here now with that same tactic comes as a surprise. And, these two athletes still ran phenomenally, I think.
Oh, absolutely.
So, no, it really doesn't come as much of a surprise.
I think it was just incredible just kind of watching it back. Valby never took her foot off the gas.
No.
There was not one part where it was her tempo, her cadence, her rhythm changed.
Yeah.
Despite all the hills that she was having to endure and climb and come down, she remained consistent. And I was super impressed by how Parker was able to execute that race. And as you mentioned, Katelyn Tuohy, I think we were very excited for this because we're when is Katelyn Tuohy opening up? And it just so happened to be her versus Valby one more time. And I felt like Katelyn ran well.
Absolutely.
She did a phenomenal job, and I kind of expected Katelyn to be up there with Valby. And there was another athlete from Stanford, I believe, that was in the mix as well, very beginning. I think it gave us a glimpse of what Parker is capable of doing as we move.
Yep.
We have literally 1 month, I think, from
until
last
NCAAs.
week. Yeah, until NCAA. So Parker pretty much just gave you it on a plate.
Here's the playbook. Right?
And here's what I'm doing. I'm going all gas, no brakes.
Yeah.
And I catch me if you can.
Now that's, not just Tuohy, but a lot of those other top contenders. I'm thinking Elise Stearns from NIU, a lot of those other ladies that were, kind of in that chase pack back there that are going to be contenders at NCAAs in a month. I think you got to go back and look at this race and be all right, if Valby does the same thing, which you can probably expect she probably will do, at Panorama Farms in Charlottesville at NCAAs, how are they going to respond? Is it going to be the same as last year where she goes out and then Tuohy's the one that challenges her and everyone else just moves up a little bit, the chase pack along as well? Or do they not let Valby be alone at the front and decide to go out hard with her, knowing that, it could become interesting at the end?
I don't know how to take Valby down right now. One of my questions is there anyone that can do this? One. But two, how do you approach running NCAAs now? I feel Valby just looked amazing and strong, which is scary to think. and the effort that she put into it, running a 9:17, and she took 2 seconds off the meet record held by Allie Ostrander, who's a phenomenal athlete at Boise State back in 2015 when she ran 19:19. I don't know how to take down Parker Valby. I think the only way to do it is you have to play her game.
You have to go out with her.
You have to go out with her and pray that your legs can sustain.
That's the thing.
The speed, the pressure, all of that. And then
you got to beat her at her own game. That's what you have to do.
Yes.
Yeah. I agree. So
you can't hang tight because she's gone. Parker's gonna be gone.
No. So I think this really sets up like just so much anticipation for what's going to come at NCAAs, at regionals. It's going to be interesting.
Yes. To kind of wrap up the top 3 in the field, you had Tuohy coming in at 19:29, Kelsey Chimmel, her teammate, 19:52, and then it was just kind of the rest of the pack on the ladies' side. But let's kind of shift gears and let's talk about the men's side now. Harvard's Graham Blanks stole the show. That's all I have for this. He did his thing. So what are your takeaways from Graham's race?
Yeah, so Graham Blanks of Harvard, he comes away with the win here. Again, rainy, really tough conditions, but he grits it out for the win. You know, looking at what he did last year at Nuttycombe.
Yes.
Blanks was 26 overall, 23:31 for 8K. Now this year he finishes first, running 23:23 in much worse conditions. And so that's pretty impressive to me. You know, Blanks is one where we all expected him, I think, to be one of those top guys in the NCAA field who's going to contend for a national title. And he's undefeated on the year. I believe he won a battle at Beantown to start off the season earlier. And so now he has Nuttycombe, a premier winner underneath his belt. I think this is, you know, obviously a huge statement for him, taking down people like Nico Young, Drew Bosley, Parker Wolf, you know, all those guys that he's going to be up at the front with at NCAAs. And so very impressed here with his performance.
And then I know you just mentioned Nico Young, like he debuted similar to how Katelyn Tuohy was, finishing second there, 23:26. But alongside that, Blanks took down the defending champion, Kai Robinson, who finished fourth with a 23:26. I was just very impressed by how Blanks, this top group here and how they ran. It was kind of like a nice little pack that they had going on. And they just executed it very well. And as you mentioned, like Blanks ran under worse conditions this weekend than the previous year. And he still ran faster. So does this put Blanks in another tier in regards to when we move into regionals?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, like when you're taking down the kind of caliber of athlete that he is, that you know, I think that obviously puts you in that top sphere.
I'm going to drop this little plug for you. If you guys don't know Ashley Titians, she's a huge North Carolina fan.
Yes, I am.
Let's talk about your guy.
The state, because I'm from North Carolina. So
let's talk about your guy, Rocky Hansen.
I think that's another big storyline from the weekend. I mean, what has this guy been doing? Like, what did he finish at UVA Invitational? Finished top 10. I believe he finished 7th, at UVA to open up his season.
I believe so, yeah.
And then here at Nuttycombe, he finishes 6th overall, 23:27. I mean, he beat Drew Bosley. I mean, he beat a lot of guys. Like, that's just, for a true freshman, you know, first year, not a red shirt, I think that's very impressive. And again, he was only, I believe, 4 seconds back from the winner, from Blanks, because, you know, the top 14, they were all the top 14 all finished within a 10-second span. That's incredible.
It's wild. And when you look at the official results, like, he moved up 8 places. Like, he was trucking.
That's how you run a cross country race. You know, you're picking off the guys at the end. Like, sometimes that's the motivation you need.
So shout out to Rocky Hansen. I know that's why I dropped the plug, because Rocky Hansen's from North Carolina.
Correct.
So we're super impressed with the freshmen. Let's kind of move now into the team aspect. And how does this kind of shape up NCAAs as we move forward? Let's talk about the men's side in regards to Nuttycombe. I feel like it was kind of expected. Like, we were expecting NAU men to do their things. I was not surprised. They won with 76 points. They were 2nd, 8th, 12th, 25th, 29th. And even their 6th and their 7th runners were in the top 50, 33rd, and 43. And I'm not surprised by this at all.
Oh, no, not at all. I mean, yeah, like, look look at how they place. You know, you have Nico Young and Drew Bosley both there in the top 10, and then you go 12, 25, 29 to round out your top 5 scoring squad. I mean, again, there's no question about it. I expected them to come to Nuttycombe to win. They get the win here. Now, I know we mentioned on the last podcast, last year they finished 3rd at Nuttycombe. So maybe they're like, all right, we got to get this win. Like, we can't lose again to Stanford, BYU. Those are the 2 teams they lost to last year. And so, I mean, they won not just by a little bit. I mean, they won dominantly.
Yeah.
It's hard for me to now see or say that anyone can challenge them right now.
Right. And I'm almost thinking, what do you improve on? Like, where do you go from here? Like, I know obviously at the end of the day, you're going for the national title, but like in between that, what do you think NAU is going to be focusing on?
I would say 4 and 5. You improve that spread there because if you look at Nuttycombe, they went 2, 8, 12, 25, 29. You move up that 25 and 29 closer to your 3rd guy there. There you go.
Awesome. So we're moving up the second half of that. And I think, honestly, the biggest surprise out of this is the NAU teams swept. The women took down NC State, the defending champions. NAU had an insane day.
Oh, yeah.
And I think the women really, I don't want to say I'm surprised because we all went into this like NC State is the team. And I think NAU really showed up and they were like, okay, we know NC State's going to be running. Katelyn Tuohy's going to be on the field. Where do we stack up against the Wolfpack? And they were able to get all of their scores in the top 18, which honestly, that helped them a lot, finishing 4th, 8th, 10th, 12th, 18th. And even their 6th and 7th runners, 24th and 44th, looked great. Again, finishing in the top 50. What are your thoughts on just NAU women and how they looked at Nuttycombe?
Yeah, you know, like I believe, I mean, I think we've talked about this before. Like NAU, we thought the women, like this is their year to run after, you know, for a national title. I think we probably discussed this toward the beginning of the season off the air. And at Nuttycombe, they just showed their depth. That spread from 1 through 5, 4, 8, 10, 12, 18, that's phenomenal. And, you know, for the best teams to compete at NCAAs, like, that's what you're going to need. You know, you're going to need that, you know, all your top 5 people packing up together and being able to run consistently up near each other at the front. Like, that is how you win a national title. And they showed that at Nuttycombe. And I will say, though, like, NC State, still such a talented team. You know, I think it's worth mentioning that they were missing, you know, some key players here. They're missing Amaris and Brooke Robber, and I believe Sam Bush was a DNF in this race. And so, you know, if that whole team is healthy, they're by far, you know, like they're still the ones to beat. You know what I mean?
I love that. Yeah.
Because you still have Katelyn, you still have Kelsey Camille. Like those are going to be your 2 solid leaders, and then. You know, if you get back some of those, you know, if you, by conference, if you have some of those athletes back, and then, you know, same for their, you know, Leah Stevens and Grace Hartman, their freshmen, if they're still running well as well, like the Wolfpack, there's no need to panic, you know? Like, I think that's the real thing.
Are you in my brain right now? Because I was just about to ask you, or not even ask, I was going to, but then I'm listening to your thoughts. I'm like, Ashley's not panicking. I'm not panicking about NC State. I still feel like they're still the heavy favorites.
I mean, they know how to win a title, you know?
Yeah.
Like they're champions for a reason, and, you know, Coach Hennis, you know, has that crew, you know, they know what to expect going forward now that we get to conference regionals, NCAAs, and again, if you have that full squad together, they're definitely still gonna, like, there's no need to say they aren't gonna win, like, oh my gosh, like, there's no need to overreact.
Okay, so now with all of that being said, let's just say we're fast forwarding a month from now. NC State's lining up. Everyone's healthy. Everyone's good. Do you count out NAU for this team title? Or are they still contenders?
I feel like it could be close. I'm going to say it's going to be close.
Who has the upper hand?
I don't know.
Actually, I think NAU looked very strong. I'm going with the defending champs.
All right.
I feel like because they know how to perform under pressure, and like you said, they know how to win a title. I'm not saying NAU does not know, because obviously they've had the history in their program of winning titles. Right now, I think NC State still has the upper hand. I feel that way. So I'm saying NC State.
I like that. I like that. I think it's going to be competitive. That's all I'll say.